Welcome to The Hill with April Ryan. We have a lot to cover, so let's get right to it. We are still a couple of weeks away from another possible government shutdown. If a shutdown does happen, the impact will be felt all across the country, but nowhere greater than in our inner cities. I recently spoke with Mount Vernon, New York Mayor Shawyn Patterson-Howard, the head of the African American Mayors Association, about why a shutdown would be so devastating.
It seems like right now we're focused more on culture wars than we are on governance. And these culture wars, just like wars in Ukraine, just like wars in Iraq or anywhere else, do have real victims. There are real consequences. Some of these consequences are 7 million women and children who are receiving WIC funding. This is not for steak. This is for milk, eggs, cheese, bread, peanut butter. As our parents told us when we were growing up, staples. These are the basic staples. What is the impact going to be on working women who have Head Start and need to be able to go to work and make sure that their children are in a safe place and that they're being properly educated and watched after?
Mayor Patterson-Howard says posturing ahead of the November elections could make efforts to reach a new budget deal more difficult.
My concern is after the November 7th election and, some of the down ticket races in states and cities, will there be as much of a sense of urgency to make that happen? These 45 days take us right past November 7th, which I'm thinking people locally in cities and states are saying this folly can impact us on a local level.
Democrats are blaming Republicans and their chaos caucus for the lack of a budget agreement. Early next year, the U.S. Agriculture Department will conduct a study to determine how many minority farmers there are in the United States. It is estimated that there were about 1 million black farmers in America at the turn of the century. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack spoke with theGrio about why this study is needed and how the information will be used.
There has certainly been a diminishment of black farmers, but there's also been a diminishment of overall farmers. When I was born in the United States, we had roughly 25 million farmers in the United States out of a population of 150, and each one of those farmers had a spouse and some kids. So a significant percentage of our population was engaged in farming in one form or another. Today, there are roughly 2 million farmers, but of that number, roughly 250,000 folks produce 60%, 70% of what's grown. And I could have a long conversation with you about what we're trying to do to sort of begin the process of helping small and mid-sized producers be able to stay in business rather than do what the former Secretary Perdue suggested was the only option, was either you get big or get out. The problem, of course, is to get big, you have to have resources.
$14 billion earmarked to help connect low-income rural Americans to high-speed internet could be in jeopardy. The money is part of the $1.2 billion infrastructure law that needs congressional reauthorization. Dr. Barbara Williams-Skinner of the Skinner Leadership Institute talks about why the funding is so critical.
We want people to say to their members of Congress that this program needs to continue. No one should be without internet in 2023. It's just so basic. If you are an elder and you can't get to the doctor, you should be able to talk to your doctor. This is life and death. If you're jobless and you're looking for a job online, that's how jobs interviews are taking place and job availability is taking place.
Skinner calls this a crisis, as 10 million rural Black Americans could be impacted. Internet access is vital for telehealth visits, work, and education, as well as voting. According to the Federal Communications Commission, over the last 2 years, 18 million people have been served through this program. Still no word on a trip to sub-Saharan Africa for President Joe Biden. The White House had indicated that the president would take a trip at the end of the year. The vice president and several cabinet secretaries traveled to Africa this year, working to support efforts on climate change, issues of women and girls, and more. Meanwhile, sources tell me Biden's trip to Africa will happen before the end of his 4-year term. And lastly, this picture speaks volumes. This little girl, Marley Rice, got the chance to meet Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She wore a robe and a white lace collar just like the one Justice Jackson wears. Marley's father is the chief operating officer at Tuskegee University, and he pulled off a meeting for Marley and Justice Brown Jackson as he knew she is fascinated with the newest Supreme Court justice.
It was very amazing. My mom taught me a lot of stuff. I forgot it because she seemed so nice, so I was starstruck, and I just couldn't say anything but answer her questions.
And that's it for this edition of theGrio's The Hill with April Ryan. See you next time here where we focus on the news for us and about us. Take care. Peace.